All right, guys, Shotty T here. We got another video. We have one more week left in the season, 6 days and 4 hours to be exact. Now, of course, there's going to be a long off season. You're going to have your black market store that's going to open up again. So make sure these little swag bucks, if you got any left over, have those ready to get some of those hard to get items elsewhere. All right, of course, and then of course you have your champion duel stuff, random server wars, probably like a meteor type event, and of course the good old server transfer event. So all that type of stuff will happen in the off season, but this season, got mixed results on it. I'll probably have a overview on season 4 probably next week when it's officially over. I will say that I did not like this season compared to season 3. Season 3 is still my favorite season of all of them, and my least favorite is still season 1. All right, it's just by far, and I'll talk about that in more detail. So it's just a matter between whether I like this season better than season 2 or not. And I'll have to think about that objectively before I give you my verdict on that. So stay tuned for that video when it comes out. So just to kind of let you guys know what's going on this week, we have 2 more copper wars going on. All right. And so we got decoration phase that's going to start and at reset. So we get to determine who we're going to fight against. And it's a close one, guys. This is a super tight faction duel, and we're the underdogs. I mean, we don't have the top alliance in this grouping, and again, it takes a group. It takes a full participation effort across all 4 servers in order to accumulate these scores. But right now, we're up by less than 500,000. So we're going to have an opportunity to gain more copper and take some copper away from them this Wednesday. So the key is to try to, if we can just hold serve, so to speak, using that tennis term, if we could gain just as much copper net-wise Wednesday as much as we're going to eventually lose this upcoming Saturday. But the thing about being on defense last is that the opponent, they'll know exactly how much copper they need to take in order to win. And, they might do by any means necessary. So we kind of have to treat this upcoming Wednesday on our attack as important as possible to try to make that number as insurmountable as possible, because the reward difference between the first place faction and the second place faction is literally in half, except for the season merit medals where you get 300 for winning and 200 for losing. But literally you get half of these, you get half of these, half of those, and half of those, which is very important. So make sure, if you're at whatever server that you're in, if you got a drag out battle, finish out the week, make sure all your leaders are getting together, having an organized plan, get as much active people in your alliances as possible to get on board, send daily reminders, telemarketing, multiple means of communication, whether it's, I know some people got personal cell phones of some people, or if you have like Discord, WhatsApp, because sometimes the in-game communication may not be enough, especially if people don't have notifications on. All right, so just whatever you got to do to communicate. Understand there's real life as well, so not much you can really do about those scenarios. But that is not the only thing that we got going on this week. We have faction duels. So this is kind of like the Warzone duels where you got one server going against another server. A lot of times that takes place during the off season. But in this case, we got 4 servers on one side, the one faction going against the other. So it's going to be a mega battle. It's going to take place just over 5.5 days from now. So this is not going to take place on Saturday morning like most of these server wars do, because it's going to be counterproductive to have both the last copper war and the faction war the same day. So they're going to give us a 24-hour time break to breathe and train more troops as much as you can within 24 hours and get your dust settled effectively to fight again on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. I know West Coast people, that's like 7 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. I feel your pain. And some people might be at church. So So I mean, it is what it is. Just get as many people as possible. Now the rewards are not as like daunting. So if I had to prioritize which one is the most important, I would definitely say focus on your faction stuff, because those season rewards are gonna, especially if you're borderline between one set of rewards and the other when it comes to individual alliances. All right, so but we're pretty much set in our bracket here. But this right here, because we're fighting for a greater cause, there's definitely a big difference here. So the copper war is going to be priority in our group, but at the same time, this right here, I mean, if you can get them both, great. So we're definitely gonna at least aim to win this as well. So how this is determined, you have the invasion right contest. So this is no different than what it is when you have Warzone duels, where there are different ways to contribute throughout the week to get points, and the side that has the most points will have the invading rights. So all right, so there's some slight differences between this and a typical Warzone duel. The biggest difference off the top of my head that I saw is that it does not factor the wanted boss fights. Now, regular Warzone duels, it does factor the Warzone, the Rampage bosses, the wanted bosses fights, but this one does not. So that's one thing that's taken out of the equation when it comes to these scoring. But the rest of these can be controlled for the most part. So let's look at the first one. Alliance duel victory. So this is your versus each day. If you win against your opponent, you get 30,000 points as a to contribute towards your server. Now we're probably going to lose today because we got a pretty tough versus opponent. It's going to be kind of tough for us to win all week. We might squeeze a couple of victory days during the week and contribute there. But the next one, though, you can individually contribute if you have the top versus score individually that day between you, your alliance, and the versus opponent alliance. So that can be, if you have an opportunity to get number one, go for it. You get 6,000 points towards the faction invading rights. Okay, the arena stuff, I mean, unless you're like a whale, there's nothing you can do about that. They've already accumulated the Storm Arena for 500,000, and we had two people in our factions that did that. We had one from 254 and one from 259 get their 500,000, and then the other faction only had one person, Puffy Johnson. So we got we already got a 500,000 point cushion off of that, and there's not going to be another arena thing the rest of the week. So that's going to be pretty cool there. Desert Storm, though, that is an alliance-based thing. So, of course, there is some RNG who you're going against, but they try to make these as competitive as possible. So if you got the alliance, if you're probably watching this video now, I would probably recommend having two teams. If I know some alliance may not have enough people to do two teams or might not have the participation, but again, sometimes you can get some easy matchups if you do two, where you can at least have a chance to at least win one. If you can win both of them, then that's 100,000 points. So if you can split your Desert Storm this week, if you normally do one team, if you can split it into two and probably just prioritizing one team still being stronger than the other, I recommend doing that this week for alliances that normally do one. Of course, our alliance normally does two anyway, so we have a good probability to get at least 50,000 points towards this. If this was last week, we would have had 100,000 because we won both teams last week. So hopefully we can get that same RNG this week. The next one, though, everyone can contribute towards this. So successfully plunder one hostile Warzone truck. Now, normally during the week, when you have these Warzone duels against a specific alliance, a specific server, the idea is only to plunder only that server all week for the truck. But since we're having a faction versus, you can actually expand it to only four. So we got 212, 216, 221, and 292. Those are the hostile servers in our grouping. So who's ever on the opposite side in your grouping, make sure you only plunder those trucks. Now, obviously, you want to make sure you filter out your own. You don't want to plunder people from your own faction. So you want to focus on that. So here's an example right here. We got a 216. So depending on what you're looking for, no matter, even if it's something that looks very attractive, that's in a foreign server like 277, that's not in our group. So if this hypothetically had like 5 shards, as tempting as that is to rob, for the sake of the team, only you can probably find another one that has 4 or 5 shards that's in one of your 4 enemy servers. I know it's tougher to do it when it's only one server to focus on, but with 4, there's a higher probability. Like this is a good one right here. This one has 2 shards, 3 secret tasks, and some speed ups. Now it's 58.7 million power, which I can't handle, but it's from a hostile war zone that's within our in the enemy faction. So this will be an example of something that you can rob. And I think the same thing applies to trains as well. So trucks or trains, if you rob those, you get 100 points. And it may not seem like a lot, but it adds up. If you got thousands of people in a server and they do that every day, you get 4 plunders a day. So just doing the math, that could be easily like a 400 to 500 point swing if everyone do it. And it's a numbers game at the end of the day. The more server participation that's doing the same objectives, the better. Right now, we're slightly behind that. We're down by like 8,000 doing that. But you can see that's a lot of points to gain just by plundering trucks. They all add up. Okay, so let's go to the next one here. First place in your arms race. So if you're every individual has a chance to be number one in their arms race, and a lot of times they're virtually sometimes competitive, sometimes it's lopsided depending on who you're going against. But if you have a chance at the end of the day to be number one in your arms race, go for it. Now, if you happen to be grouped with other people within your server that has that, let me go ahead and get this. I got to get my digs here. There's some drone parts too. All right, but if you're within, if you got other people that's within your grouping that has a chance for arms race, all it takes is just one person. So if you can't get it, as long as there's somebody else within your group, and encourage them to get it. And right now we got a 66, 2 and 3 chance to have the number one, to have the number one in here. And the stamina race just started, so I'm going to be using some stamina shortly. I'm probably not going to be number one in here. I'm not going to use that much stamina to get above that. But again, all it takes is just someone from your server to be number one, and that'll count towards it. And we just happen to have 2 people from our alliance that has a chance, and we got a 6th place person from our server that has a chance to get this. So make sure that you do your part there. And then the last thing that we got is, we just talked about the arena. So and that culminates to this war here. For winning the war, you get 10,000 honor points. So that's good rewards with this and these tickets and shards and the decoration chest. But more importantly, win or lose, you get these milestone boxes, and these milestone boxes have season merit medals in it. And if I'm not mistaken, if it's like before, there's like a total of 100 that you get. There's 30 there, and there's 50 there. So 100 season merit medals. What can that get you, would you say? Well, it can get you a mythic blueprint, which are very, very hard to get. So I got 9. I just need 1 more, and then I'll be able to take my next red weapon, and it's going to be on defense. I have to decide between this, or this, because by the time that week goes out, he'll be at 4 stars. I only need 1 more regular blueprint for that. Let me know in the comment section which one should I take to 4 stars to red next. So that's obviously something you can get. I know I had someone in the comment section ask if I'm free to play, what do I get out of here? Should I get a skin? The skins are pretty expensive, and it's going to be kind of hard to get 1,500 season points, especially if you're not in a high performing alliance. So you probably have to wait like 2 seasons if you're trying to save up for a skin. But stuff that you can immediately get that can boost your account and stuff like these. Sometimes you can get some decorations. These are rare decorations that are harder to get. I've gotten a mixture of that at times, but the other stuff are kind of useless to get unless you just want to get a profession change certificate. But again, I would prioritize this first and foremost. I know I had somebody ask that in the comment section there, but these are one of the things you can get when you participate in this war. And of course, there are different ways to get points. The easiest way to get these points if you knock out a hostile war zone commander base off the map. So something if you happen to go to a foreign server, if it's somebody that quit the game, literally you just zero that base, you get 50,000 points. But the quickest way to do it is just get into the field of battle, because when you kill troops, those points will add up very quickly. So just keep that in mind where you're going for that. And again, you just want to make sure that, and then you got individual rankings, which also you can get some of these season merit medals if you finish in at least the top 100, which will be a challenge, especially when you're talking about 8 different servers to finish in the top 100. You pretty much have to be super crazy in the battle, but they pay 1,000 spots. So as long as you get to the top 1,000, you'll get something individually there. All right, so those are all the invasion rights contests. Again, it'll officially end at reset on Saturday, and that way it'll be determined about the war that's gonna take place that Sunday morning, 12 hours later. So just keep that in mind when it comes to the server rights. So just to kind of recap, this week, this is the last week of the season. You got 2 Copper Wars left, or Sarasor War, whatever war you got in your season that you're in. Focus on those first and foremost. Get those troops trained. Use that VIP buff every time you're about to train more troops to kind of be more efficient with that. And then just organize, communicate within your leaders to have a plan if you have a chance to win. And then for the server war, the faction wars, make sure you're doing your part to contribute towards either the arms race, the versus, the desert storm, and all that stuff. So it's gonna be a crazy last week, guys. I'm probably gonna have a couple more videos gonna put out. I still have not purchased the Williams pass yet, because I said I was gonna wait till this week. I got 2 days left. I'll probably get it sometime later tomorrow. All right, and I'll let you guys know my thoughts about it once it's officially in action, and probably do like a rankings video on all the exclusive weapons to date. So be on the lookout for all of those videos this weekend. And let me know in the comment section what else you want me to talk about, because I know there's some stuff that you guys probably have commented on prior videos, but it's hard to keep up with all these comments. So if I haven't addressed the video that you wanted me to do in prior comments, I apologize. But if it circulates enough, it'll get to it where I can do that video. But anyway, guys, like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and I'll talk to you later.